Hey everyone, I am thrilled. I'm not even excited. Every time I always say I'm so excited, but I am thrilled. No words can express the feelings I have right now of having Dr. Monica Vermani here in our studio talking about the importance of healing after separation and divorce. And part of the reason why she is here is because she helped me through a very challenging time when I got separated in the middle of the pandemic. I'm sure I was not the only one. So welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So share with everybody a little bit about you. I mean, I could go on, but I would love our friends to know more about who you are.
So I'm a clinical psychologist. I specialize with mood, anxiety, stress, and trauma. I started my career with abused women and children in shelters and worked with women in prison, men and women in, correctional facilities, sex offenders, 9/11 responders, military. I've worked at CAMH just with anxiety disorders, Lake Ridge Mental Health Center with children and families with anxiety. Lots of work related to UHN, brain and spinal cord injury. Lots of people with, again, mood, anxiety, high stress, and trauma.
Oh boy, you're helping a whole lot of people. Why, Monica, is it so important to heal after a separation? Let's just call it a breakup, because whether you're, the separating could be from any significant relationship or any relationship that we feel is significant, right?
Yeah. So, divorce is a massive milestone change in your life. We all have to recognize that when it comes down to relationships are where you are most vulnerable. In an intimate relationship, you learn more about yourself than you do about your partner. And oftentimes we're triggered. We're literally naked with this person. And, emotionally, physically, there is a vulnerability that comes with that dynamic that is important for us to recognize. And when we sign up to longer-term commitments like marriage, many times you're not just grieving the loss of a person and companionship, you're giving the loss of a vision or a dream of how you thought life was going to lay out or, pan out for the rest of your life, maybe till death do you part, because many of us take those vows.
Yes. Now, with your clients, do you work right now in your private practice, men and women in different socioeconomic backgrounds? Are you finding you're working primarily with, entrepreneurs and or business professionals when it comes to separation and divorce?
So, working in so many different populations prior in my career in different hospitals and institutions, I get referrals from word of mouth. I get referrals from lawyers, doctors, institutions that I've worked at. So I get a wide array of people. When I did the TED Talk, I did a TED Talk last year called Think About It, Thoughts Are Powerful Things, which, again, we'll talk a little bit about symptoms in this episode. But it's important for us to recognize that thoughts are powerful things. Your ideas of commitment, relationships, fears tied to blueprints. And, I deal with such a wide array of people in different settings that, working with extremes and traumas is one thing, but I can do everything in the middle. So when it comes down to symptoms, anxiety, depression, mood, attention issues, I'm dealing with a wide array of people, men and women, all adults. That's my specialty. But when it comes down to breakups, whether it's a marriage or a common law, or it's, a simple relationship that came together for a few months, we all have the same pattern of what our expectations of that relationship and what we hope this will materialize into. And it's that hope that we're grieving when we get to a place of a breakup.
So for the sake of my listening audience and to just give you context, I work with a lot of high functioning, entrepreneurs, C-level executives, business professionals. So they are top of game, let's say, in their professional career. And they struggle a lot with the fact, a breakup is particularly challenging and disappointing because they have this higher expectations even in their own relationship. As you know, with myself too. Tell me a little bit about, what I've noticed is that they sometimes are very different at home than they are at work. Why do you think that is?
So, when we're talking about high level functioning, we still have high level functioning. We still have depression and anxiety symptoms or attention issues that come with those people. We have people problems, plain and simple. I think it's important for all of us to recognize that we're all perfect and a work in progress, regardless of the socioeconomic status you're born and raised in. And so knowing that, when you say home and outside of home, I just wrote an article for Psych Today on high functioning depression. Just because you're a high functioning person and you look like you fit in doesn't mean on the inside you're going through the same, alliance. Many of us are struggling with imposter syndrome. We feel one way and we present as another. Smoke and mirrors, whatever you want to call it. We all have that going on. And like I mentioned, in intimate relationship, you'll learn more about yourself than you do about your partner because there's a mirror being shown of your intimate details that somebody is witnessing, good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of, as you said, high functioning executives, they tend to mask or hide. And especially when HR says, don't bring your personal things at work, right? You have to almost pretend or not have those feelings when you're at work. What are some of the common, psychological and emotional challenges that those high functioning individuals deal with when it comes to breakup?
So I like what you just said right now about not bringing things to work. We all need to understand when you're in pain, you spill over onto others. And the others could be your children, your loved ones, your family members, your friends, your colleagues at work, your workplace, your productivity, strangers on the street, and acquaintances.
Anyone willing to listen?
Pure and simple. When you're in pain, you spill over onto others. Hence, it is important for you to pause and reflect and notice symptoms that come up during changes in life, whether you're changing jobs, relationships, partners, phases in a relationship due to children coming in or buying a house or stressful moments like losing a job. It's important for us to work on our own. Divorces bring out an array of different problems at the same time, which is why it feels stressful. When you have a number of symptoms all hitting you all at once, you will have symptoms coming up within you as well as cognitively. All human problems have a purpose. All human symptoms have a purpose, and it's to show you where you're at and what you need to work on. Mm-hmm. Any problem in life you can put on a table and it will manifest in your life in 3 distinct ways. When I'm saying problems during a breakup, your problems could be financial. It could be family adjustment. It could be telling community and also breaking yourself away from now community that was, common and friendly and you had a social community with people, and now being the third wheel might feel awkward for you. You might also deal with a lot of financial setbacks, or you might find yourself fighting more in court and having a bigger problem with that. Many of us are tested with a lot of different emotions when we go through a breakup. It is important for us to pause and reflect and look at what are the problems going on. And some of those problems could be medical conditions that come from the mood and anxiety from, the accumulated stress and burnout that you go through. The 3 ways all problems manifest in your life is through physical or physiological symptoms, headaches, muscle aches, abdominal distress, constipation, diarrhea, heart palpitations, crying, sensitivity, irritability, angry outbursts, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, panic attacks, number of physical symptoms peaking and dropping, fatigue, anything in your body. The second way things show up in your life is negative thoughts. The thoughts that we sometimes ruminate on, think about over and over and over and over again. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not worthy. Plus, remember, 0 to 10, you're not born in this world, you're born in a household. The way mom and dad love, the way mom and dad fight, what your ideas of marriage and family life should be. Realize that we have, during a breakup, our ancestral traumas and our parents speaking to us in our head of what is right and wrong, what we think we should be doing, vows that we've maybe taken that we feel bad about breaking, guilt, shame, and blame, thoughts about not being worthy of love, not being capable, not being strong enough. All these negative thoughts percolate in our head and manifest in the way we behave. And so the third way things show up in your life is behaviorally. Lifestyle habits, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, alcohol and drugs, number of physical symptoms are negative thoughts and give you a break from them, but they're depressants. And so when you depress yourself, you're just numbing something for the next moment for it to pop up. But our lifestyle habits could be porn addictions, video gaming too much, overworking, underworking, avoidance, denial, procrastination, pushing people away, angry outbursts, staying in toxic relationships, having a pity party where you just throw out the good habits and start eating poorly, not exercising, not taking care of you. So realize that our symptoms and our problems have an interchange and a relationship that is very important for us to work through. Whenever you're going through a breakup, inevitably, you will have symptoms. And it's important for us to take care of ourselves. You know, we put a lot of emphasis in today's world on relationships, but always remember, you literally take your first breath in alone and you take your last breath out alone. So it's an individual journey amongst a collective, your family, friends, partners you bring into your life that you bring in by choice. But the first and foremost relationship we should never forget is the one with ourselves. Whether you're in a relationship or not, taking care of number one, your VIP, your very important person, has to be you. And when you're going through a breakup, it shows you how much neglect maybe you were going through during the relationship on yourself, that now you're having the aftermath.
Wow, you covered an array of physical, notable symptoms and results of someone going through a breakup. And frankly, I think those are the same symptoms that would have appeared before you broke up, right? Because any difficult relationship, how you manage that and how you react to it and how it impacts you and will cause that breakup, right? Breakup is just the ultimate for many people. It is the end of that toxic pattern. But many people have stayed in those relationships prior to breaking up. So along that, truth, why, in your opinion, do you feel that men and women stay in relationships? So for example, the biggest headline right now is Cassie and P. Diddy, right? And she admitted in that lawsuit, and now that we actually physically saw on tape, the abuse that happened in 2016, yet this was a decade of a relationship that she was in, and she said she was forced to do things and all of those things. So why, I know it's not a simple answer, but maybe you can share a few points as to why somebody does that. And then how can they break free from that and that cycle of abuse?
So attraction is complicated. Many times attraction and chemistry is actually familiarity. Meaning if we came from dysfunctional backgrounds or we had absent parents or an absent father, we might be going through sometimes a pattern of repeating cycles of absent parents or absent partners or, neglect or abuse. Many times we don't recognize that what draws us to someone could be a pattern, not necessarily a healthy one. So it's important for us to recognize that, these type of toxic relationships we talk about in the aftermath, during the relationship, there was good, bad, and ugly. Right. So many times we cling onto the good and want to give people a chance. We're also creatures of habit, being human. We don't like change. We try to hold on to, making things certain. And many of us are filling our own voids in a relationship. So when there's something good, we hold on to the good and sometimes dismiss the bad, hoping that it won't happen again. Or we keep giving people credit that they're going to step up, change, or see our value, or, be nicer to us because we're so kind to them. It's important for us to sometimes not bring in the fantasy element of what we hope for, but to accurately look at our relationships. It is important today that people start recognizing that my relationships are only going to be as good as I am, meaning like attracts like. When you're still in a place of having low self-esteem or trying to fill your void or in a place of lack and emptiness, you will attract somebody at the same place in their lives. And so as you work on you attract better and better. I always tell people, make your life ice cream on its own, where it's sweet with hobbies, interests, health, well-being, that you love your life alone, that when a relationship walks into your life, they should be the cherry on top. With or without the cherry, your life should be sweet. A partnership should be someone who comes to your life to just enhance the sweetness, but their life has to be just as sweet on their own for them to come together with you and share life versus become codependent and need each other to fill each other's gaps.
Well, part of the challenge is everyone's life is more like melted ice cream, or the ice cream fell on the ground. The ice cream's melting on the ground. And so what's the coaching there when they want relationship. We as human beings, we crave love and affection. So it might take years for someone to deal with trauma, and they don't even know it. So that's sort of the catch-22. You want a relationship, yet your life isn't ice cream. It's pretty sour. What would you say to something like that?
So, dating is one thing. You get to see the mirror of where you're at. Sometimes it is fun to just give yourself permission to date, to see what kind of people you're gravitating towards and what kind of people are gravitating towards you. I could date 5 different people, and in front of one, I'm playful. In front of one, I'm academic. In front of one, I'm irritated. In front of one, I have great passionate chemistry with.
So I get to try all 9 of my personality.
There you go. And what's important is you can make a relationship work with anybody. I really do believe that. Your goal should be to find your best possible match. But that's going to come when you are also in an equal place to receive that.
Okay.
And many of us are going out there dating and finding people that fill our gaps. So if I'm someone who's socially awkward, I might be dating someone who is life of the party.
Right.
But realize I'm going to give you a take on anxiety disorder. So social anxiety disorder, for example, is not anxiety related to people, but anxiety related to scrutiny, judgment, criticism by people. And so what do I see in dating sometimes is 2 people go online dating and they meet another version of social anxiety. And so we got the person who can schmooze a crowd, but they get anxious about having solid relationships with somebody because they don't know if they're good enough, that somebody would stick around if they got to know them. And then you got this person who has a hard time saying, hello, my name is, but they have grade school friends in their life. So they're more anxious with, meeting people on the first time, and introducing themselves, but they have solid friendships. And this person can schmooze a crowd, be a partier, but has a hard time retaining friendships.
Right.
Both have social anxiety. They both worry about what people think of them. This person worries about what people think of them on the first shot, and this person worries about what people think of them over time.
Right.
And so they both have social anxiety, and they might come together thinking they're filling each other's gaps. But the truth is this person's relying on this person to pull them out of their shell, and this person's relying on this person to stay with them. Is that healthy? It can be, as long as you're both aware enough to meet in the middle at some point.
So it sounds like it's not like you have to be lonely for the rest of your life, especially if you're in struggle, because I do know a lot of couples who today are thriving, but can go back in the past and say, when we met, I was here, she was there. But they were, what's interesting in what you said is they were both in very similar places. However, when it comes to even matchmaking, professional matchmaking, and people who pay me to find them a match, part of that challenge is finding a partner is not always the issue. When you have that person, how are you going to be with that person? Because you can ruin a match if your behavior isn't ready for that person. So there are a lot of people that seek a partner, exactly what you said, subconsciously, because they're hoping that the traits they lack will be taken care of by that other person. And yet, what I'm hearing from you is it's not like you can't date. It's just you have to be really aware and be able to communicate where you're at so that somebody has the choice to say, okay, she's in this place. Do I want to be there with her, or can I be there with her? And that's that's not conversations people are having today.
So what's important that you just spoke about that I think is good to focus on is choice. We're not in a time now, like many of us have parents or grandparents that, lived up to their marital vows till death do them part, but they were also very codependent. They needed each other for survival. In today's world, both people are working, both people are self-sufficient. We're in a different world where people are not staying together because they need to stay together to function in a harmonious way with their family. They're staying together by choice. So I choose them when I can be with somebody else, and they choose me when they can be with somebody else. The goal is choosing each other every day, which means you want to put your best foot forward in your life on a day-to-day basis with your partner because you're choosing each other. Don't take each other for granted, because that person could choose somebody else, and you could choose somebody else if you're feeling taken for granted.
I want to talk about love as an addiction. And I say this because there were many times in one of my past relationships where I I physically felt addiction.
Yep.
And I have addictive personality. I'm very open with my audience, right? So, and that addiction could be social media, workaholism. I have ADHD, so like I can go off on a tangent and I can get laser focused with what is it? Can you share a little bit about love as an addiction, and is that's real for people? Where does that come from? Is it again childhood, perhaps?
Well, that love to be loved feeling feels great. Like, it's one thing to love yourself, and a lot of people struggle when I say we got to work on self-love. They look at me foreign because they know what external validating internal is. They don't know how to internally validate themselves, right? And so, there is a feeling. Think about moments in time where you enjoy your own company or you feel great about how you look, how you feel. You're at the top of your game in your career. You're walking out of your house feeling, so grateful for how everything's working out. That's self-love. You feel so good about you and who you are, but learning to have that feeling constant is hard. And so we are taught from a young age to have external validating and internal. Many eldest children or firstborn, mommy says good girl and you feel like a good girl, external validating internal. And that cycle then continues, that I need someone outside me to validate me, friends liking me, I like myself, colleagues, praising my work, I feel smart. That we become addicted to a cycle of I am worthy of love if people like me, if my parents approve of my behavior, if partners find me attractive, if my friends have a good time with me, if people can rely on me. So it's like external validating internal. But we need to realize that our self-growth is about being your higher, better version of yourself for you. Meaning you don't need someone to validate you. With or without my parents' approval, I'm worthy of love. With or without partners loving me, I'm worthy of love just the way I am. If I succeed in my career, I'm worthy of love. And if I don't succeed, I'm still worthy of love just the way I am. If I make the dollar amount, if I look a certain way, if people praise my praises, or if they don't, I'm still worthy of love just the way I am. Being in a place of loving yourself unconditionally. You're a parent. This is easy for me to talk to you to say, is there anything your kid will do that would make you not love them? You might be disappointed in them, but the truth is you will always love them with or without them doing things the way that you expect them to do it.
As horrible as it sounds, even if they committed a heinous crime, like, yes, it would be. Of course.
So you'll still love them.
I don't think I would ever not love my children.
So that's unconditional love. Isn't it sad that you can unconditionally love your children, but you had to work on unconditionally loving yourself?
Well, I think it's a daily practice.
But when you unconditionally love yourself, you walk away from toxic relationships. You set boundaries in a healthy manner and you don't go back, even if the addiction of like falling in love with certain parts of that person, whether it's a body part or it's intimacy or it's, the way they make you feel having a great time. You can walk away when you know this dynamic is not in your highest and best or better when you love yourself unconditionally. So you might be disappointed in yourself to keep going back, but understand even the going back, correct and continue. It's like a bad habit. Food addictions, porn addictions, alcohol, drugs,
sex addictions.
When it comes down to it, addiction to your technology today. Most of us know what is healthy and we keep doing unhealthy behaviors because it somehow takes the edge off. Something that doesn't feel right. What doesn't feel right? Back to my talk about symptoms. What symptoms are you escaping? Symptoms of dealing with your past, symptoms of not feeling loved, feeling alone, abandoned, not good enough. Realize that one reason why we go back to unhealthy dynamics is not only addiction, but can be because it's taking the edge off a symptom that we don't know how to deal with. But when you come to therapy, you learn healthy ways to maybe deal with a feeling, and get to a place of health. You had a video once upon a time in one of your podcasts or things of you loving your life with a friend walking on a beach or something. And Carla, like loving my life, owning my traumas, owning my journey. Yeah. Our stories make us who we are. Mm-hmm. And when you can feel that joy in your own life, you don't feel the need to go back to a toxic relationship. But in the moments of loneliness at night, when you're not feeling good enough, when you feel, stressed with money, work, or feeling just alone that I have to take care of everything by myself, you go to the person that you can rely on. And if you don't have a healthy person today, who do you go to? The person that's in your past.
I love that. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Helen Fisher's work on the brain and love.
Yeah.
Part of my bringing up that conversation is that there are physiological feelings and even dopamine,
serotonin levels that
right,
spike.
Right after sex. It's a cuddle. What's the oxytocin?
Yep.
Right. So when I speak about love addiction, sometimes, and again, I'm a part of this is me sharing part of my own personal situation, is that when I felt this, physical bond with a certain person in my life, that in my mind, I had convinced myself I'm never going to find that again.
Thoughts are powerful things.
Yes.
You just said it. Your thoughts lead to your moods and your behavior.
And I just said, I'm never going, just thinking that
You just said it.
Oh,
your inner world
free
creates
therapy,
your outer world.
Free therapy.
Pure and simple. When you are saying that dialogue that you can't live without somebody, guess what you just manifested for yourself? Pure and simple.
That
your inner world creates your outer world.
The feelings that I did have, I think I could have probably had those same feelings if I allowed myself, or do allow myself, to be close enough to somebody that I can have that excitement and that, I wouldn't even say lust. Love is much deeper. But I think in the dating phase and when you're choosing partners, it's excitement. It is lust. Like, do we not in that first, I think they say, and you're the psychologist here, the first 18 months is the honeymoon phase anyway, and that we tend to see our partners in rose-colored glasses.
So I think
in the very beginning, is that factual?
We put them on a pedestal sometimes by our expectation. But I think when you're working on health, instead of just meeting people and putting them on this pedestal and then slowly over time they drop, I think it's better for us to have reasonable expectations of, like, you know what, I'm just going to be playful with dating. I'm just going to meet different people and see what ingredients of me they bring out of me. In front of one, I'm more passionate. In front of one, I'm more academic. In front of one, I can be myself. In front of one, I'm irritated. Look at who brings out the best in you. Your relationship goals, or you can make a relationship work with anybody if you settle, but your goal is to find your best possible match. And so understanding, what does my best match look like? And realizing on a reasonable front that it might take some time for love to build. Because if I meet this person, I'm like, hey, they're pretty intriguing, but are they really what they're presenting themselves as? And let that person slowly creep themselves up onto the pedestal. That person's going to last.
Makes sense.
That status was earned versus you giving it to them. One reason why we have the lust factor, we put them on a pedestal. Are you the whole package? I hope so, because you're hot, you're beautiful. But then over time they drop because they don't manifest the other ingredients that we need for a long-term relationship to be successful. But instead, if we're here and I love myself and I know who I am and I see my value, I meet you, we enjoy today. And the side effect of a good date is another date and another date and another date. And over time, that short-term turns into long-term. Long-term turns into exclusivity. Exclusivity maybe turns into engagement and marriage. The truth is we should stop having expectations for marriage right away or relationships right away to develop into something. Instead, we should look for the connection. And then if the connection's real, they will elevate over and over to a place where you become each other's long-term relationship and level up into maybe marriage, commitment, family life. You should ask people in dating, which I know is going to be a question, so I might as well answer it. You should ask people when you're dating, are you open to marriage to children, so that you know that you kind of are on the same trajectory, but then throw the question out after you get the answer to know that you both have similar values, and then just date with the openness of seeing what the story of me and this person is. The story of me and this person could be a short-term fling. It could be a long-term relationship. It could be marriage and children and families. We'll see. Time will show you. But learn to just go with the flow and be clear with each other on what you are a deal breaker on and what is clear. And just try to date each day for the companionship. Why do we date? To enjoy someone's company. As you're enjoying each other's company, the side effect is more attachment and development for it to turn into a unit.
Right.
But start off by just enjoying a date and knowing your value of what you bring to the table And when I tell people who are looking for someone, make an ideal list, a list of your ideal partner, and then go to that list and notice, what do I possess and what am I lacking? And whatever you're lacking, work on that. Because as you work on you to be your ideal partner, like attracts like.
Well, that was just a masterclass in successful dating in 2024. I think that's evergreen no matter what. I loved that. Oh my goodness. I want to steal this woman all day, like all day, but I can't. And that means that she'll be back and we'll talk more, because I really wanted to talk about your TED Talk. I wanted to talk about the book. So can we just share with those people about your book? How can they get it, support you, and where can they find you? And I'm going to post all of her links as well, but please share with our audience.
I will be sharing a couple of links also on forgiveness. Forgiveness, again, is not about the other person. It's forgiveness of yourself in relation to the other person. So for example, if I was with somebody who was toxic and didn't treat me well, yes, I have to forgive them for not treating me well, but I also have to forgive myself for putting up with them. Forgive myself for thinking that they will change when they've been showing me the same consistent behavior. Forgive myself for maybe putting up with abuse, or forgive myself for not thinking I'm worthy of better and settling or compromising my happiness to keep something working. Sometimes we have to realize forgiving others is about forgiving ourselves and the part we have in the story of that relationship. And so during the pandemic, a lot of things bubbled up for many people, especially relationship problems. Some relationships came together for the pandemic, just for the pandemic duration. Some people dissolved to realize that without distractions of spa days, trips, and work, they weren't as compatible as they thought. So a lot of relationships ended. And, with the mood, anxiety, stress that comes with a breakup, I decided to write the book, A Deeper Wellness. And A Deeper Wellness is about you going into your stuff, wherever you are in life, married, divorced, grieving, work stress, personal stress, a student even, working through their own anxiety and insecurities about surviving in today's world that is very expensive. It's important for us to look at a deeper wellness as wherever you're at, work through guilt, shame, blame. How do I feel seen, heard, and valued by myself? How do I self-love? How do I work through anger? Anger is never about the person. Anger shows you sides of yourself that you're not at terms with. Meaning anger can stem from feeling love, from feeling not in control, not good enough, betrayed, victimized, stupid, silly, not competent, inadequate. Realize that anger is just a blanket word. You want to go deeper to look at all the things under my anger that are being stirred up in me. And so working through anger for yourself so that you're at peace. Realize that this book, A Deeper Wellness, is all about you working through mood, anxiety, high stress, and traumas wherever you're at. And we all have symptoms like this. We're all perfect and a work in progress. The biggest quote I want to leave you with is, don't give from an empty well, give from your overflow. Make sure you take care of you before you take care of others, and get your reserves up. Stress is when our activity level surpasses our energy level. So activity is mental and physical. We can't bring this down often, but we can bring up sources of, energy, food, exercise, and breathing, sleeping well, and a calm state of mind is where the therapy comes in. So my book, A Deeper Wellness, is on Amazon, or you can go to my website, drmonicavermani.com, and you can find all my resources. During the pandemic, I wrote an article and read them out loud for people in chronic pain to listen to. You can work on mood, anxiety, and trauma, and anything else in between.
Wow. A Deeper Wellness sounds like the Bible for happiness. And God, everybody needs to get this book. I am embarrassed I don't have it. I haven't read it yet. I will have done that by the next time we see each other. So thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, leave your questions and comments below. Dr. Vermani will be back. And thanks again for being at the studio.
Thank you very much.